Tom, you are a brave, brave soul. You're going to bare your guts on stage in a one-man show about what
Hmm.
happened to you as a kid. This is not a story. This is not a stand-up. You're going to get up there and say, "Hi, let me tell you what happened to me right years ago." And you're all alone. Oh my God. I think it's easy to play Russian roulette with no with six bullets in the chamber. Why'd you do
I
it?
agree.
Why'd you do it?
Well, the name of the show, from what you just said, the name of the show is a cat in a box. And sometimes I jokingly say I should change the name to "This is why I'm like this." Um, because I am. I'm talking about my childhood. Why did I do it? I grew up in a dysfunctional alcoholic family. I was the youngest. I always felt that this wasn't right. But sometimes in dysfunctional families, and maybe sometimes even as the youngest, but let's just say sometimes in dysfunctional families, you are led to believe that you are the one with the problem and everything else is okay. And, everything's fine. This is normal. So I used to tell my siblings, I'm going to write a book about our family someday. And as I got older, I thought I would do a solo show about it. But I battled with maybe things weren't as bad as I thought they were. And people would minimize it. I talk about that in the show. People would minimize, by saying, your parents must have loved you. You had a roof over your head. Um, and I don't know if you want me to talk too much about what happens in the show, but through just through life, the backdrop fell, through some life incidences in the last 10 years, I came to realize I was in denial all of this time and I need to tell my story. And I am right. Also, in the meantime, I went to school to become a preschool teacher. I'm a preschool teacher now. I've only been teaching, this is my 11th year. And when I had to get two degrees in early childhood, a bachelor's and a master's. And as I was working through my master's, it really hit me. And I realized I was right. Your childhood affects you. I didn't know about childhood trauma. Nobody knew about childhood trauma in 1980 when I was a freshman, when my father died from cirrhosis. No one knew what to do. And I recently found out there wasn't really any um, significant studies on childhood trauma until the 90s.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I'm probably the same era as you, maybe even a bit pre. And in my day, my father-in-law put it best: "Dad, just walk it off."
Yeah, yeah.
You just didn't talk about things that affected you mentally or any kind of trauma.
Yeah.
Now, you said you had siblings. Uh,
Yes, I'm the
do they
youngest.
know about this show?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Do they know about the show?
Yes, I, of course, did many cold readings and workshops with it. And at one point, I was down in South Jersey, and my two nephews came. I was in the parking lot, and they got out of the car, and I said, "Oh, they sent one from each side of the family." So my two sisters each sent. They didn't send them. The boys came. I have a good relationship with them. So each of their oldest children came. And apparently they went back and told them, and I got a text the next day, and I heard your show was great. But they weren't there. My sisters weren't there, or my brother. So they could say it was great from hearsay. It still is great, and I don't say anything horrible about them. I did initially when I started to write it because I just didn't know. And my director helped me focus more, and I helped myself focus more. What do I really want to talk about? It's not about them. It's not about anyone in specific. It's about what childhood does to us. It's about childhood trauma and how that affects us as a child, and untreated, how it affects us as an adult, and specifically how it affected me.
We don't even realize, even when we're talking to children, we don't realize that they don't have the same breadth of knowledge. So something that is so mundane to us could be a shock to them, and we don't know how long that's going to survive.
Yes.
Dare I say, the way our parents were brought up is not the way we could be brought up.
Yep.
Now you're talking about focus. You're talking about doing this show about your life. you've done performances already, or is this the premiere now?
I've done workshop performances.
Has
That's
it,
what I call them.
is there a sense of catharsis in you? Like when you finish it, you go, "Ah, I'm glad I said that."
Yeah, the first reading we did last year at the Belmar Arts Center in Belmar, New Jersey, they were so nice to let me have the space one night. And it was the first time, and I read it in front of anybody. And my cousin was there, and a good friend of mine, and my two nephews were there. Some other acquaintances, not great close acquaintances, but just people I kind of know that were in the area. We had, I think, about 20 people, maybe 22 people. And I remember on my way home thinking, if this is all that I do with this, this was fantastic, because I just need to tell my story. And something I realized more recently, sometimes people just want, they tell their friends to come to their shows. Not that they want, but they tell their friends to come to their shows. And I realized I really don't want my friends. I want strangers. I need strangers. I think I need strangers to hear this story. I really do. I need strangers to hear it.
Because you could be a learning lesson to so many with this.
Yeah, and I do get feedback in the workshops I've done. One of them I did at a place called the Reach Out Foundation in Langhorne, PA. They were so nice enough to let me use their space. Also, it was literally in a meeting room, no lights, no microphone, 25 people. And I guess their name is sort of self-explanatory, but I'll just give a little background on them briefly. They help people who are in need, people who are struggling, families, individuals from all types of backgrounds, struggling through all kinds of things, offering all types of, intervention. And there were some of those people in the audience, and just some regular audience people. And we did a little sharing session afterwards, and it was really great. It's really great to do that. And I'm going to do more of those. I'm planning on doing more of those.
That's excellent. That is really excellent. Now you're saying a lot of you're saying recently, and this happened not long ago, and I'm hearing the word recently a lot.
Okay.
Aha moment. What was the aha moment where you went from, oh, it's my fault, I'm making too much of it, to, things are screwed up? Was there a moment where you just went, I'm not right?
Yeah. I guess, I always hear, I'll just say, I always hear people talking about their books on the radio, and the author asks them a question, and they're like, well, that's part of the story. It's in the show, but I guess I'll talk about it. I don't mind. Hurricane Sandy happened. And what happened was, I had moved out of New York. I had bought a small, I got a text, sorry. I'm on my phone. I bought a small 1-bedroom, 1-floor house by the Bay of New Jersey. And my house was completely ruined by Sandy, and I had to evacuate. So I spent the night at a sibling's house, and they knew of the damage. My niece was with me the next day. And I didn't want to stay there anymore, so I stayed in my house. And every day I would hear noise out front, and I would run to the door, and I would think, oh, my family, they're going to be here. They're going to be here. And they weren't. And even my neighbor, Andy, at the time, whose father kind of disowned him because of his chosen sexuality, he said to me one day, hey, Tom, I'm going to my dad's house. My dad came down to get me, and I'm going to stay there. And I was like, all right. I was the only one in my neighborhood. Anyway, one day, after a few days, I got an email. That's what it was. I got an email, a forwarded email, which is very typical of the way we talk in my family, from my oldest sister. And you could see how it went around to different parts of the family. How is everyone? And it was just how she is doing with her family, and how my other sister, a few blocks from her, is doing. And nothing about Tommy's house was completely ruined. It was under 4.5 feet of water, and he has no place to live, and he might need some help. Nothing. Anyway, and I remember sitting on my front steps, and I literally felt like the world was spinning. I felt completely, entirely alone. And then after a couple of days, I realized you've been in denial your whole life. You've been pretending you were a family. And I have. I've been pretending. It's my fault a little bit as an adult. I've been pretending we were a family when I really should have faced it head on when I was younger. Is that too long of an explanation?
No, that is completely correct. It sparks a memory in me. I've mentioned, I had an extended stay in the hospital. And it was a very serious surgery, and there were members of my family. I had my own level of dysfunction, and one cousin wrote to me on Facebook in a message, just said, "I hear you're not feeling good. Get well soon. I'm going into surgery. But get well soon." But I get it in terms of that. Now I'm hearing abandonment. I'm hearing
Yes.
alcoholism, uh, physical abuse.
Yeah. As it turns out, my mother used to hit us. A few years ago, I made a comment on Facebook about my father, and my brother defended it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to say something to him. And he said, your mother wasn't so innocent. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Again, we were talking through messaging, not in person or on the phone. And he said, you know, mommy used to hit me with a wiffle ball bat. And I thought, what the hell's he talking about? And then I said, well, daddy ruined my childhood, you know. And the more I thought about it, not only did I remember her hitting, but I, at one time, took everything. She had like her favorite things. There was a list of things. I used to have them listed in the show, but it was unnecessary. But like, she liked her ladle. She loved her yardstick. She used to love to hit you with a yardstick. She had her specific. I took them all and I hid them under my bed, and I told her she's not going to get them back unless she stops. And she did stop hitting us with things. From then on, she used her hands. And then that stopped at a certain point. I don't want to go too much into it because it's all about the show too. I talk about these things specifically in the show. And then she stopped doing that. And then it was always backhanded compliments. And she didn't mean to. I know that now. She grew up in a very dysfunctional family herself. She struggled. She used to tell me how horrible her stepmother was. And I would say, why? And she'd say, oh, she would say the meanest things. And I would just like look at her like, and I want to say as a kid, like, you mean like you do? But she didn't even know she was doing it, I don't think, or maybe she did. But I know she didn't mean to. She was just, that old saying, those who hurt people hurt.
Of course. Well, we're entrained. The person who says they love you is also saying you're a failure, and so you just assume people who love me are going to think I'm a failure, and
Yes.
pursue in life.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the untreated childhood trauma made everything worse. I was wondering, why am I in my 40s and my 50s and still a crazy mess? Why am I still this little boy in the kitchen, screaming, everyone shut up, stop fighting. But because I never got the treatment I needed, and I went to a few therapists on and off, but they didn't understand. I look back now and they did not clearly understand trauma the way my most recent therapists understood trauma and the way I understood it. And I'll just elaborate on that just for a second. There's something in Adult Children of Alcoholics, I think a phrase called a spiritual bypass. I don't know if they created that phrase or not, but that's where you don't address and grieve the feelings of that hurt child. Instead, you say, I'm just going to forgive them. I'm going to pray. I'm going to go to God. I'm going to go to church. I'm going to, whatever your spiritual choice is. It doesn't necessarily have to be a religion. But basically, it's avoiding the real issue, which is the pain that you felt as a child. And in my opinion, in my experience, my growth came when I finally let that out. And some of them were horrific scream cries of pain. I remember calling people and say, look, put the phone on mute. I'm going through something right now. I may scream, cry. I'll try to move the phone away from my mouth. Just move it away from your ear, and you get that pain out, and then you're freer.
Are you? Now you've done this for several audiences. You're now about to put it on stage in like the legit theater sort of behavior.
Yes.
Talk about where it's going after this. But
yeah.
How do you feel now?
You mean where I am at the show or where I'm going forward with the show? Like where I am with the content?
You have done this already. You've gotten it out. You've had your scream. you put it on stage, you told your story. Have you gone, oh, like it's
Yeah, but it's still painful because it's always in my head, the show. I've always been that kind of an actor. I remember going home, from acting class, after doing like a scene, like an intense scene from Hurly Burly, that pops into my mind. I don't know if you remember that. You probably do, I'm sure. The Sean Penn, he's high and drunk and he's conflicted because his friend just died. And I remember going home and that's like swimming around in my head and I couldn't get rid of it. And I would just flop in bed. I'm better at it now, so I do get sleep. But the point is that this stuff is still going on. I'm still processing certain things. There's still a lot of emotions. I just had a good scream cry about a month ago. Called some people because some things came up, and it was that pain. Specifically, it was the pain of loneliness and not being loved as a child. And I'm aware of it, but sometimes I'll just be out in the world and I'll see a family and you could tell that that child is loved and that the parents love them. And you could see the child just sitting there in their own skin, just confident and happy. And it just kills me because I was not that. I was the opposite of that.
yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Oh, thank you.
We all have the cross to bear, but wow, it sounds like yours is quite heavy. And you're really brave to, you could write the show and you can hire an actor to play you. Why did you say, okay, let's take all my guts, put them on me, and then apply makeup, and now I'm going to show it to the audience? Why did you have to do this show? Why didn't you hire someone to do it? Why didn't you direct it?
Because I want to get back at my parents and my family. No, because I want to tell my story. I did think of that. And I am an actor and I am a very good actor. And I thought if anyone could tell my story, I would rather tell it. There's just such cathartic. Is that the right word? I think you used that once also. Yeah, there's something it's huge for me to get up there and tell my story to people. And they're listening to me, or at least they're in a theater and they have to be quiet and pretend they're listening. Not like a stranger on an elevator who will put their earbuds in while I'm talking. So that's what it is. It's I get to tell my story. I've always wanted to tell my story since I was a kid. And I've always loved this medium. I remember when I first moved to New York, a good friend of mine told me I got to go see this guy, Eric Bogosian. And I'm like, what's that? And I remember going to see Eric Bogosian. It was only the late 90s at PS 122. Yeah. And I remember leaving there and thinking, wow, you could do that? I didn't know that. I'm only from the suburbs of New Jersey, from the Meadowlands, only 10 miles out. But there's so much going on in the big city that I didn't know about. And then when I was turned on to Spalding Gray and, so that's why, because I get to tell my story and I love to tell stories. I guess I like to perform. And I just have to say one other thing. I've researched this in my mind, I guess not researched, but contemplated heavily. Some people say it's a need for attention, and I don't believe it's a need for attention. I think there's a lot of other things. If I really wanted attention from people, I can get it. It's more of just the joy of making people feel. There, I should have said that from the very beginning. I love that. I've always loved that about theater. Stand-up is fun. I love to make people laugh. Not all the time. There are some comics who are like, I just love to make people laugh. I'm not like that, maybe because of my childhood. But I do love to make people feel without hitting them or saying something mean to them.
Now you hit the word I was going to ask you about. You're a stand-up. Just when you came on camera, you're like, oh, yeah. I've had people who made the joke of it. I've had people who've come on and they were like, hi, is this a podcast? And should I? No, you came on. It was kaboom. I heard the orchestra behind you play your intro as you came on camera. You're a buoyant person. This is not a funny topic.
No.
Is there humor within the show?
Oh yeah, definitely. And the great thing about workshopping, and if anybody is listening and planning on doing a show, workshop. I knew that going in, and I even told my director, I really want to workshop this. I don't want to just write this and then like spend a lot of money on a theater and put it up one night. I've seen shows like that, and I would talk to the people afterwards, and they were like, well, I read it to my friends. So through the workshopping, and even through my stand-up, I will throw some stories out from my show to see what happens. And sometimes they get really big laughs. Like, wow, I knew it was funny because I'm a funny person and I know what things are funny, but it was just a different kind of, it wasn't a joke like the kind of jokes that I would normally write with a setup and a punchline. It was more the situation being funny. Like I have a rant about all of the insane things my father says, profanity laced, insane, stupid things he would just shout out. If you don't, like that stuff, like, you don't know, I don't know. If it was up here, you would know where it is. Just the crazy things he would say walking around the kitchen.
I think that era, like there was a sale on weird expressions because
My lights are going off.
I had a whole bunch of them that to this day I sit here and say, what does it mean to say you talk like a man with a paper ass? What does that mean?
That's great.
Yeah, I think there's like, I think that's what they had back then. So there is humor in this. There's the irony of
Yep.
situation sort of humor.
Yeah.
Okay, go
ahead.
Please.
I've always loved that the Rodney Dangerfield scene from Natural Born Killers. That's what it was like in my home. We heard each other and we would try to, like, it was I don't know if you remember that scene. It's an over the top, I think somebody being killed, or there's like blood and guts, and they're talking about like rape, and there was this over the top laugh track, and Rodney was gesturing, and grimacing for the camera because it was set up to be like an over the top sitcom. And that's what when I first saw that, I remember, like, that's what my childhood was like. We would hurt each other and say mean things, and then we would fake laugh like it was funny, and it was just awful.
So your life was a sitcom written by Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, I like that.
Well done. Now here's something interesting. Talk about bravery. Okay, you spilled your guts into this play. Now you're spilling yourself and your guts onto the stage for this workshop. But we got the news. So, okay, let's see now. I'm not yet descending into hell. Why don't I go there? You're opening this show in New York in December.
I know.
About that.
It's crazy. I can't believe it. And I said something to my director recently, and he said, yeah, but you've been talking about that you were going to make this happen, and you made it happen. And I said, yeah, but I didn't really believe it was going to happen. I just wanted it to happen. And I'm giving out, I have flyers printed, and I'm giving them out to people that I know very well, like colleagues and stuff. And it's weird because someone said the other day, he doesn't want us to come because it's about his childhood, but he gives us a flyer and tells us to come. And I said, you're absolutely right. I'm conflicted about you coming, but I want you to come. I just want you to know, you might look at me differently when you hear what my childhood was like. And maybe I don't want to tip too much of the show out, but something I might have said to my father that was really not a good thing to say, but I meant it. And luckily I never had to do it. So thank God.
And you're also a brave soul on something else. Now, I didn't know this until literally we started taping. You're a school teacher for little kids.
Yes, 3K in New York City. The 3-year-olds, they come in. They all have to be 3 by December.
I'm sorry, they have to be 33 for me to teach them. But so, do you think subconsciously or consciously you said, I'm going to work with kids because I want to make sure there's at least one positive influence in their life?
That was, and I talk about that at the end of the show. That's all right. But anybody who's watching this still needs to see the show because it's fantastic. It really is. I'm not just, and if you do come and see the show, when you do come and see the show, you people watching, when you hear about my journey, you will know I am riddled with low self-esteem. So for me to even say this is amazing. For me to even be smiling today, I didn't start smiling until my 40s, my late 40s probably, and I'll be 60 in January. But now I forgot the question. I'm sorry.
I was just basically saying,
Sorry.
are you a genius on purpose or by accident? Did you to become a teacher of young?
Oh, yes. No, that was choice. That was choice. What happened was, this is not in the show because it was too lengthy. I was doing comedy. I stopped drinking when I was very young, 24 years old, but I didn't know for all those years, you know, in this other program, I don't want to mention it, which saved my life. But I was, you know, mostly doing that spiritual bypass thing. People would tell me, forgive and forget and don't think about it. Doesn't matter what got you here. You can't worry about, you know, yesterday. I didn't know about trauma. So life wasn't really getting any better. And I found myself at 40 years old, broken up with someone that I did really love at the time. And she had a son that I really loved at the time. I broke up with her because I didn't know how to be an adult. And she didn't want me back. And I just started really looking at what I was doing with my life. And I started to ask the universe, what is my purpose? And I said, whatever comes back, I can't say I can't do it. And teacher came back, and I hated teachers. I hated school. A friend's mother told me when I was little that she thinks I'm going to be a history teacher when I was younger, and I cursed her out, never went to his house again because they never saved me when I was a kid. So anyway, through a series of events, I went to school, and I thought about it, and I thought, you know what? I think my problems started when I was a little kid. So let me study early childhood and try to figure out what's going on. And someone in this, I'll say AA, it doesn't matter, told me that my liability of my dysfunctional childhood could also be an asset. And he just said, he was this old Jewish man. He's passed away. I loved him, Bob. And he said, look, you know, you might be able to help someone. You know, I'm not saying you can, but, you know, maybe, you know, you could use this to help somebody. So I thought about that, and I thought maybe that could happen. You know, maybe I could understand the dysfunction. So I do try to work in underserved communities where statistically there is more dysfunction. And you know, I know it's everywhere, but statistically, I believe there is. And I feel like I'm able to understand the children better. And, you know, when I come in to school and I see a kid coming in sad every day, I do whatever I can to try to help them and not just make them laugh and be silly, but just try to make them have a happy day and let them know that that's a possibility.
It's absolutely wonderful. That's wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
One
I enjoy it.
One of the best things he's ever said to me, he said, you are the culmination of everything good and bad.
Oh,
Is a compilation of both those things, and you can't really be one without the other. So I'm so sorry you had a life that had to become a one-man, very painful show. But at the same time, it prompts you to help others. It prompts you to be whole and save the world. So there's something to that, I guess.
Yeah. And just for a side note, I know you know this, but a lot of the times my laughter always isn't like laughing at something. Years ago, I was in a Meisner class and this girl said, you're always laughing. And the teacher said, look at him, look at his face, look at his face. He doesn't think it's funny. And she looked at me and she went like, oh, wow. She saw the pain behind that laugh. So I just wanted to clear that up. I didn't want you to think, I know you don't think I am, but I laugh in relating because it's just such a painful feeling sometimes. Laughter is the way I dealt with it as a kid. I didn't want to be a comedian. I just wanted to fit in. And I remember when I was in about 7th or 8th grade, me and my friends hung out with these kids a few blocks away. You would call it a different neighborhood, but they were like their group up the block. And one of them said, oh, I heard of you. You're the funny guy. And I looked at my friend, Michael, and I'm like, what the hell does he mean by that? It's funny. You know, like I always think of the Joe Pesci now. What am I, a clown? I'm here to amuse you. But that was just the way I fit in. I chose that role of being funny. And I did resent it for many, many years.
Won't go
In
into
fact,
my
I,
therapy session, but I'll just say I completely empathize with you on being the funny guy and
yeah.
really laughing. My wife and I were watching one of those talent shows at one point, and someone came up and their story was they were abandoned as a child, they were beaten, you know, alcoholic, a terrible, terrible life. And then they got up and they sang and they were incredible. And my wife
Wow.
said, "That's the pain talking."
Oh, wow.
And
I like that.
I remembered that because I thought that's brilliant. So yeah, if it's the pain that's keeping you talking and keeping you making this world great, okay,
Yeah.
pain, feel that pain.
Yeah, I love that. And I relate to that because I've been a closet singer my whole life. My mother used to mock me. So I just never did it. And during the pandemic, I posted something. Anyway, make a long story short, I have a couple of speakers and microphones and I sing in the subway, and not for money. I just love to sing, and I love to sing loud. And sometimes I'll find an echoey hallway. But the point is, there's certain songs I can't think of anything off the top of my head. And after I sing it, I just feel like so peaceful and happy. And some of them, during them, I almost start to cry, some of them, you know, depending on what the song is.
Catharsis. Catharsis.
Yeah.
All right, we all need catharsis. Tell us where you are in Philly and when you're going to be in New York.
Oh, man. I have to remember. Philly Fringe. It's my first time being as a part of the Philly Fringe Festival, so that's going to be a lot of fun. My show is only one night, unfortunately, on September 20th, 7 o'clock, at a place called the Yellow Bicycle Theater. It's a really cool theater on 15th and Arch. I was trying to think if I can give out my Instagram link, but I made such a weird one. It's hard to even figure it out. It's a lot of hyphens in it. And then in New York City in November, the 2nd, the 4th, the 6th, and the 8th. 2, 4, 6, 8. There's 4 numbers, sorry. At the Tank Theater on 36th Street. And you can find that on their website, just the Tank, New York City. Yeah, those are the 2 dates so far. And then many more to come after that.
Well-known indie theater spots these days.
Yes. Yeah.
So
It's a great theater. It's
they're good people over there. They kept that building alive forever. They used to be the old June Havoc Theater. They're keeping it alive, and I think it's absolutely wonderful. And
yeah. And
that's terrific.
And if you're coming in from out of town, in town it's easy, but even out of town, because it's on 36th and 8th, so you can come into the Port Authority and walk down 8th Avenue or Penn Station.
Or you just bring your bank card, and there's a parking lot or 2 in that area.
Oh, there you go. You're right. Your bank card.
Your child's college education to park your car, then all is well. And happily, I can see you in New York, and I don't have to travel 4
Oh,
hours.
yes, yes.
Philly. Tom, this has been absolutely wonderful. I give you
Thank you.
credit, man. You are so brave to
Thank you so much.
And to make this statement, to share it with everybody. I wish you the best in Philly. Can't wait to see you in New York. Wish you the best there also. Give them hell, man. Give them hell.
I will. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You have a great day.
To you.